All right, Eliot Shorr-Parks, of course, on the beat covering the Eagles for us, and back there yesterday with an OTA that was open to the media. So an awful lot to discuss with Eliot, who joins us right now. Good morning, Eliot.
What's up? How you guys doing?
Quite a bit, bud. So we'll go in a lot of directions, but let's just give you an open-ended first question that is this. What stood out to you the most what was the most interesting thing you saw yesterday from the OTA or heard from the OTA?
Yeah, man, there was so much. I mean, it was our first chance at looking at the depth chart for this team, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I guess my main takeaway would just be Jalen Hurts had a really good day. He was 20 of 21, was really surgical with the ball. No, like, big throws down the field, no, like, highlight throws. But he looked like the quarterback that we saw the majority of last season, which is just take what's there, really smart with the football. I don't think it was even close to intercepted a single time. And he was doing it without A.J. Brown, who was there but didn't practice. Devontae wasn't there. And obviously not really a running game when you're doing 11 on 11 or 7 on 7 with no pads. So good. I just thought Hurts wasn't special, but he was good.
That's great.
Who's there who surprised you? You know, I guess question is players who are there that you expected to be there and players who didn't show up that you thought might be around.
Yeah, so that's always a tough one because they are voluntary. You don't know why players aren't there. It could be family things. It could be anything like that. But
yeah, it's okay if they're not there at this point in time.
Yeah, well, I would say it's okay if they're not there if it's a family thing or something. But like a player like Bryce Huff, for example. Bryce Huff was not there yesterday.
Well, and he should be there.
If he's electing to stay away, that would be disappointing coming off of the season he's having. And the thing with Bryce Huff not there is it's kind of like last year where you don't even realize that he's not there, right? Like he's not a player where you show up and it's like, let's see if Bryce is there. He's kind of really fallen down the depth chart, down the list of important things, and that really stood out with the depth they have at edge.
Eliot, prediction here, and I know we got a couple months so they have to make all these decisions, but Bryce Huff, which is more likely? I'm going to give you three choices. They keep him and play him. They keep him and don't play him, which is what they did with Bradbury last year, or they cut him or trade him.
I think cut or trade. And June 1st is the date to keep an eye out here. If they trade him after June 1st, they save $4 million in salary cap space. So I think they are likely to move on from him. Again, you just look at the depth chart, like Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Azeez Ojulari, Josh Uche. I mean, they have a lot of interesting pieces there. And it just feels like Vic doesn't really like Bryce Huff as a player. And so if he doesn't like him, I don't know what his purpose is on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was deactivated in the Super Bowl, and I didn't even realize that until about a month after the game, but it's pretty telling that he wasn't even, activated to have a chance to play.
All right, that says a lot, though, also. So Azeez Ojulari is there, and Adoree Jackson is there. And you said Josh Uche also?
Yes,
there?
I saw him there.
Yeah. Wow. All right, so Eliot, let's talk about Cooper DeJean. This is another fascinating one. Totally different scenario, though. I mean, this is one of your best players. So, my interpretation of what he said publicly yesterday is that they're going to try him at outside corner. I think they probably want him to win the job, but they don't know if he will. Is that an accurate way to frame it?
I would say no. I think the more accurate way is he is the outside starting corner that's going to play nickel. Like, I would be really surprised if he, quote unquote, lost the outside corner job. Now, again, we're talking about kind of two different jobs here because when they're just in base and only have two corners, which is not going to be often, then he will be out there, right? I think they feel confident in that. But the majority of the time, they will be a nickel, which means he'll move into the inside. Now, what he talked about yesterday was, like, there are challenges with that. He's done it in college, but, you have to get used to it. There's different things on the outside that you do that you don't do on the inside. So I think he will be the outside guy in base for sure, but it'll be an adjustment.
What stood out to you from the depth chart? You referenced that there's now a public depth chart. What hit you?
Yeah, so yesterday I expected to see Kelee Ringo get the majority of snaps at outside corner when they were in nickel, and that really wasn't the case. It was maybe 50-50, but I think Adoree Jackson probably got more reps with the first-team defense than Kelee Ringo did, so that was surprising for sure. And then the other one is just, so Reed Blankenship wasn't there, so that's part of the safety depth chart, obviously, but they shuffled guys in and out. Like, they have 5 or 6 legit players that have an argument to make the roster. it's going to be really hard to decide. Yesterday, it was Andrew Makuba and Sidney Brown starting with the defense, but Andre Sam got in there, Lewis Seen got in there, Tristan McCullum got in there. So they really shuffled guys in and out with that first team safety position.
Okay. I guess that makes sense with all the safeties. So Makuba, you said he was running with the starters yesterday in Reed's absence? That seems like a big deal to have a rookie in there with the big guys.
Yeah, and last year, I mean, they didn't put Quinion in there right away. Quinion started with the backups and eventually worked his way up to the starter. Yeah, obviously Reed's not there, but Makuba getting those first team reps is surprising. Now, a big thing.
That's not how they operate, is it?
Well, we only have a year of Vic. So, last year, Vic didn't do that. But obviously, he's doing it this year. And the big thing with Makuba was like his size coming out of college, coming out of Texas. Seeing him in person yesterday, he's slender, but he's not as small as I thought. I think with the draft process, sometimes people get so focused on, 6'1" versus 6 foot, 190 pounds versus 185. But when they're out there on the field, you really can't tell a difference. So I thought Makuba and Mac McWilliams, the corner they drafted, I didn't think size looked like a problem for them compared to the other players.
And then the competitions we have on the offensive side of things, we know that Tyler Steen at right guard. I'm assuming he's competing against Trevor Keegan, Matt Pryor. I guess Kenyon Green also would be competing for that starting spot. How does that look right now? Is Steen going to be the guy for this camp at least?
Yeah, so I think of all the jobs we talked about, I think that Steen has the firmest grasp, I would say, on his job. I think it's his job to lose. I do think Kenyon Green will be given a chance, but I think Steen's history with the team, the fact he's taken reps with other offensive linemen, and he was the first team offensive lineman up there. So Green will be given a chance for sure, but I do think at this point I would probably call it Steen's job to lose.
This Avery Williams, he's a running back. Avery Williams is out there doing some things. Is he just involved more than anything for the special teams purposes right now? I know nothing at all about Avery Williams.
Yeah. So Avery Williams, he's played running back. I personally think they're going to use him more as a receiver. Like last year, and I know no one enjoyed watching the plays, but when they kept throwing those screens to Britton Covey early in the year, I think that's like a role they envision Avery Williams being better in than Covey was. And also then obviously you bring up special teams. That will be how he makes the roster. He's not going to be a big part of the offense or anything like that. So, has played running back, but I think, and especially seeing their running backs yesterday, I think his path on the field is more likely at receiver than it is at running back.
When you see the running backs, is Ben Van Sumeren one of them?
So he wasn't out there yesterday. I think he's still recovering from that injury, but I'll say this, seeing the running backs, A.J. Dillon, I mean, he reminds me a lot just in terms of like seeing a large human move quickly. Like it's a little LeGarrette Blount-ish in how he looks in the open field. You can see why, when healthy, he is like a contributing part of an NFL offense. He has to stay healthy. That's a big part of it. But there was a play yesterday where he caught the ball on a little screen pass, and he just took off, and I just was standing on the sideline thinking I would not want to be between him and the end zone right now. Like he's a big dude. So yeah, their running backs I thought looked good yesterday.
Eliot with us, obviously on the beat after covering the Eagles yesterday and for a bunch of years for us here at WIP. Eliot, let's get to some of what was said. I thought Goddard sounded happy, and what I mean by that is we knew he's back. We knew we agreed to terms with the Eagles, but you never know until a player talks and you try to discern if it's authentic, whether he's really happy with the number that he arrived at and not coming in grumpy. I thought he sounded really pleased with how it ended up. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think authentic's a good word there. Like I didn't feel like he was just saying it. I thought, and I know, like he is happy to be back in Philadelphia. Yeah. I think there was a real part of him that was open to the reality he would have to play elsewhere and tried to wrap his mind around that. But he always wanted to be back in Philadelphia. And the number he ended up getting really wasn't much lower than what he was going to get if none of this ever happened. So he seemed in good spirits. I thought he did a good job talking about it, and it kind of felt like turning the page on this, and now the focus will be on the year and free agency next year.
You know what's fascinating? We'll probably never know, Elliot, but did it come down? Did the Eagles' offer go up after they didn't draft a player in the April draft?
100%.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah,
that was probably the swing factor.
That's I think Goddard is back because the draft board didn't break their way and they didn't get a tight end.
Yep,
100%.
That's what I think.
So, does the way the NFL is changing in terms of being more run focused, is that going to affect our bottom line in terms of roster creation and player distribution, Elliot? I look at the big roster right now, and I know we've got a lot of extra names because we just brought all these, young college players in who probably aren't going to make it when it's all said and done. But we have a lot of backs, a lot of new backs. We talked at the beginning there about Avery Williams, but then remember, we got Will Shipley, who we, as fans, we know him, we like him, we've seen him in the preseason. But Avery Williams, but there's also Montrell Johnson Jr., there's also Shunderick Powell, there's also Lou Nichols. Is that number of backs growing because the run is growing more popular? And do we need to pay attention to this because it's just the way of the NFL now? Or are the Eagles probably going to be keeping things sort of the way they had been in the past and have, Saquon and two other guys?
Yeah, so I think this is where the practice squad comes into play. I don't think you'll see them carry more than 3 running backs on the active roster. It frankly could be 2, and you could put A.J. Dillon on the practice squad and promote him a few weeks, see how he's doing.
Sure.
So I think for the most part, you'll see them. It'll be Saquon and Will Shipley. But another benefit of having a ton of running backs on the roster is, you don't want Saquon practicing yesterday. There's really no point in having Saquon do team drills yesterday. So you get a lot of running backs. You have them kind of get you through training camp, the preseason games, and then you can have them on the practice squad. But you are right. The more bodies, the better for a run-first offense.
Yeah, I'd say, Elliot, I think one of the most fascinating things with this team this year is going to be, do they dial Saquon back a bit, and if so, how much? Because they never did last year. I did not expect that. He was like a horse that starts out the race in first place and goes wire to wire, and is, they never backed him off. And I didn't think that was wise. It worked. They won the Super Bowl. It was an all-time season. But it will be interesting this year if it's, 4 or 5 less carries per game to try to preserve them. We'll see. Obviously, if they do, those backup running backs become more important. Elliot, one more thing. Patullo.
Yeah.
So you got a shot to listen to the new offensive coordinator. Sounds like things are going to really pretty much stay the same for the most part. He referred to new wrinkles, but I can't imagine they're trying to reinvent the wheel. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I thought he sounded exactly like what people expected, which is an extension of Nick Sirianni. He is Nick Sirianni's right-hand man. He's been here since Nick got here. He's worked with Nick before Philadelphia, and that's how he came across. Him and Nick agree on a lot of things. He called Nick one of his main offensive influences from a scheme perspective. So, yeah, it's the concern I have with this team. It is, are they going to have a counterpunch to what the NFL brings them, and can they do that without fresh ideas in the building? Yep. So Patullo's impressive. He's accomplished a lot. I think he was well spoken, but he is an extension of Nick. So we will see how that works. All
right, Elliot, final, absolute last thing, most important thing of all. Should a Philly drill a Brave today?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this reminds me of when the 49ers walked through the Eagles huddle in 2023. Like you either are a team that allows yourself to get pushed around or you're not. And the 2024 Eagles would not have allowed the 49ers to walk through that huddle. The 2025 Phillies can't allow a division rival to hit their best player and not retaliate. So a message is more important than a win, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
Amen, brother.
Elliot, good work, bud. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Elliot.
Yep, sounds good. Talk to you,
pal.